Hey guys, I'm so excited to continue this series for you. Today, as we continue to talk about nail retention, we are going to be actually going over product properties. So the second part of our series really has to do with the product that we're choosing for each individual nail or service or person or foot or toe, whatever that might be. There's lots of different product choices that we have to make as we get into doing nails. And this is also something that a lot of people take for granted, especially given how much marketing there is with different types of product names. And we're told that products are supposed to do a specific thing. It is one of those things that a lot of us don't investigate further, and we just start relying on product titles or product descriptions. So today I wanted to show you how you can do your own testing on products to see how they're going to behave on a given nail and get a better intuition for what's going to work well and what isn't going to work as well for specific types of nails and specific types of situations. This element of choosing your product before you start the service, including thinking about all the layers in between, is going to be instrumental in helping you alleviate chipping, lifting, peeling, and all of those other retention issues that we come across. A lot of people do not take into consideration the product that they are putting on their nail beyond the way that the product has been marketed to them. And I wanted to show you guys today a quick test that you can do to get more familiar with the product that you're using beyond how it's being marketed. Because at the end of the day, we need to understand how the product is going to perform on the nail, and we need to get a better understanding for how that product is going to pair with different nail styles, nail healths, lifestyles, all of those different things. So I have 4 different gels here that I wanted to experiment with. 2 of them are hard gels, 2 of them are soak off. So we have Pink Builder from Light Elegance, which is their thickest builder gel, hard gel from their Lexi line. We have Attain Adhesion. We have P Plus Cutie Base, which is a thinner base coat typically used for quick soak off, as well as we have Natural Fiber from the Lexi line. This packaging is the older packaging from Light Elegance. As far as the builder gels are concerned, if they look a little bit different than the ones you've seen. I have so many gels. I have every iteration of every packaging ever made. So just keep that in mind when I'm demonstrating. But what we're going to do is we're going to take these products and we're going to apply them on some form paper. You can also do this on actual nail forms, but the idea is that we want to be able to apply a layer of product onto a surface that we can peel the product off, and then we're going to play with the product and see how this behaves. Now, before we get started with this type of experiment, it's a good idea to put on some gloves so that you can handle the cured pieces of gel, even if they have inhibition layers on them, without having to worry about cleansing everything and keeping it off your skin. This is just a good habit. Anytime you're going to do swatching or handling anything where you're going to get real sticky and you're going to be handling lots of jars or lots of different stuff, I like to put gloves on just to keep my hands from getting sticky and messy and having to constantly clean everything with alcohol. So we're going to take a similar amount that we would use on a nail. The key here is that we want to keep the amounts of gel and the thickness of gel as similar to each other as possible, right? Anytime we're doing this kind of comparison, we want to make sure that the comparison is a fair comparison. So we're going to keep everything similar. You can even do this by measuring out squares just to make sure that everything is very similar and that the thickness of the coating is similar as well. So let's start with thinner coats. And so what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the size of the square that I'm painting so that I have a reasonable amount to play around with. But I'm also looking at the thickness of it on the actual form backing and making sure that it's even in all areas across the form paper, as well as even with the other samples that I'm going to make. It's hard to get it perfectly exact, but we can just at least pay attention to that so we get an apples to apples comparison. Okay, so once you have all your samples on here, you can go ahead and cure in your nail lamp. We have the fiber gel here, we have the P Plus Cutie Base, we have Attain Adhesion, and we have the Pink Builder from the Lexi line from Light Elegance. So the first thing I usually look for is I look for yellowing and I look for shrinking, because those are immediate things that I'm going to notice about the product when it comes right out of the lamp. So gel, because it goes from a liquid to a solid, as well as the way that it cross-links when it polymerizes, when the liquid formula goes into creating these polymer chains, there's this cross-linking that happens. And so we're basically taking a loose liquid with all of these free-floating molecules and we're bringing them together to create bonds. So the product is going to get smaller and it's going to shrink. So you can actually see that this cutie base shrank quite a bit. So that gives us a good indicator of how careful we need to be about placing the product on the natural nail as well as capping that free edge. Because if the product shrinks, it's possible that it's going to shrink back from that free edge, exposing the free edge, which is just going to lead to more wear and tear down the road. It doesn't mean that the product's bad. It just means that it's something that we need to consider as we're applying it so that we get good coverage of the actual natural nail. These are good properties to know, not necessarily things that, make it a good or bad product. It's just something to consider because it's going to change the way that you use it in a specific scenario. So you can see that natural fiber looks a little bit more yellow than it did before, but it is in general sort of a yellowy white product. Just looks a little bit more so after curing. We have the cutie base. We have Attain adhesion, which Attain adhesion stays very clear after curing. And then we also have the pink builder, which is a little bit more difficult to notice yellowing in general. The yellowing actually happens from the photoinitiators in the product. Photoinitiators, when they get exposed to UV light, that energy that they absorb makes them go a little bit yellow. So the more photoinitiator in a product, the more that is going to show a little bit yellow. And usually that yellowing dissipates over time. As those photoinitiators lose that energy, then you're going to have a product that was a little bit yellow after curing, and it usually will dissipate after some time passes. So great to know, but also if you're looking for something that's going to be absolutely crystal clear, that would be something that you're going to want to consider because yellowing is going to change the way that it looks on the nail. Okay, so now what we can do is we can peel this product off of the nail form paper, and because we have gloved hands, we can play around with it. So what I like to do is I like to peel the samples off of the paper, and I like to play with them a little bit. And I like to bend them and see how they bend, how easily they bend. I also like to see if they hold a shape. And then the other thing I like to do is I like to try and tear them in half, as well as see if I can get them to crack completely by squeezing them. So you can see that fiber does snap in half. So this is going to be a more rigid product. You did see that it bent quite a bit before snapping in half. So it's not super rigid and brittle, but it is something that isn't going to have as much flexibility, right? So I can bend it a little bit like so, but then if I squeeze it a lot, it's going to snap. So this is a great test to just see how much can you bend the product before it actually snaps in half. Some products immediately putting any amount of pressure on the product will snap right in half. And this tells you whether or not this is going to work well for nails that are flimsy and flexible. If the nails that we're working on are damaged or thin, or we're going to be using very thin applications of this product, we want to take that into consideration with, this might be too brittle for the nails that I'm going to be applying it on. And maybe I want something that's a little bit more flexible, okay? So that's the fiber gel. Then what we can do is look at cutie base. And you can see all the inhibition layer that gets on my gloves. That's why I like to wear gloves while I'm doing this kind of stuff. So interestingly enough, what I can also look at is I can look at if it's a milky kind of product. I'll show you Attain adhesion. So see how you can also note that like one gel kind of gets milky when it cures, another gel stays more clear. So we can also talk about, instead of just yellowing, we can talk about, does it have more of a milky look? And usually milky gels, the ones that look milky on the nail, they are usually really flexible. So let's play around with cutie base because this gel actually is really good for flexible nails. So I can twist this, I can try and tear it, which it does tear. It's meant for being, kind of that quick release, easy soak off. So the bonds aren't going to be as strong with this product, but it is super flexible. Look at it. I can bend it in half and nothing happens. I can roll it. It's like very, very flimsy product, which is going to be great for flimsy nails. I don't need it to be super strong because I'm not going to be doing length with it. With something like fiber, this is what I would be using for extensions or something where I need it to actually create strong structure. With cutie base, this is just a base coat that's going to be on natural nails. So this is going to be awesome for being able to bend and flex with natural nails. And that milkiness factor is really not important because this is going to be under things like soak off gel polish. And I want it to soak off quickly. So that is a trade-off that I'm willing to take in order for it to be a quick removal type of product. Okay. So this kind of playing around with it beyond what the manufacturer tells me it does, this gives me a lot of information like, ooh, this is going to be a really good base coat for my flimsy nail clients. They're not going to get any popping or lifting with this product. I do need to consider that it shrinks quite a bit, which we'll talk about in just a second. But I'll show you guys how you can look at shrinking. Attain adhesion stays crystal clear, which I love. It is also extremely flexible. So you can see it's very bendy. I love this product because it's really great for all different types of nail types. It is a very flexible gel. And when I twist it, it doesn't tear like Cutie Base does. It's extremely high adhesion as well. Doesn't soak off as easily as Cutie Base, but this is also a really great product for flimsier nails. And I love to just play around with this. Now, when I have it in thicker layers, this is also something you could do, which is in thin layers, it's nice and flexible. So great for gel polish, stuff like that. But when I actually have it in thicker, and if I really try to mash it up, it does snap and break. So this product is one of those products where it's able to be used in different thicknesses, thin for more flexible, thicker for more rigid, which means you can use it for things like overlays and short extensions because it's going to actually be able to hold up when you do that. But also a soak off product, so it's going to be a little bit more flexible. Last but not least, we have the Pink Builder from Light Elegance. Pink Builder is going to be very, very hard, and it's going to be very stiff. So very stiff product, and it snaps right away compared to fiber. So can you see how I was not able to really give that any amount of pressure? So if I really push this, and it's hard for me to even bend this in half, I'm squeezing with all my might and it snaps. So this product is not going to be good for thin, flimsy nails. It's not going to be good for natural nail overlays, but it's going to be excellent for holding a C-curve, for being something I can pinch into place, for something that's going to be great for longer nails, longer extensions, building up an apex. So this is something that I would only use on my artificial nail clients where they're getting longer nails, they need more structure, but I would never use this product as a natural nail overlay product, okay? So regardless of what gets said or told to you through marketing, this is an awesome way that you can get more familiar with how products are actually going to behave on different nail types. All right, last but not least, I want to talk about shrinking because in our next lesson, I'm going to be talking about actual product placement and how that structural placement as well as the overall application that we do plays a huge role in lifting and chipping and all of that retention issue conversation. But shrinking actually has a big role to play as well because a lot of people don't think about how this is going to change the way that they apply the product and how this is going to actually wear on the nail too. Okay, so an easy test for looking at shrinking is you're going to use a Sharpie on some nail form paper. You can also use parchment paper, wax paper. You can use saran wrap. You can use anything like that that has a nice smooth surface to it. And I like to draw a square because what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply my product and I'm going to color inside the lines. I'm going to perfectly match my product up with these purple lines, even just maybe a hair past the purple line, on the inside of it. Just make sure it touches that purple line. This is going to give me a good guide for where the product was when I applied it before it went in the lamp. So I'm going to color in between, inside the lines really well. Again, applying a layer that mimics what I would be doing on the natural nail. Make sure it's nice and even in all areas. And make sure it touches that square on all four sides and in the corner, because that's going to give me a really good visual after this cures, okay? And then we are going to cure this. It's okay if it eats your Sharpie a little bit, it's not a big deal, but just make sure that everything's touching that purple line. Okay, so here are two samples of products that we would use for natural nail adhesion purposes. So this one you can see shrank a lot, right? You can see that it's no longer inside the lines, and I'll just kind of pop this just a little bit so you guys can see some shadowing. This product shrank quite a bit. Also some pooling. So this kind of irregular shape on the outside means that because of the slippery surface that it was on, it pooled a little bit. But you can see that it just no longer touches the corners of that purple square, and it shrank in quite a bit on all sides, okay? This product did not shrink as much. So let me just pop this up just a little bit so you guys can again see a little bit of shadowing. This product did not shrink as much, but it did also shrink. All gels shrink. Again, we're taking a liquid and making it into a solid, just like when you freeze water and make it ice. It's going to actually compress a little bit. It's going to get smaller and more dense. This is something we need to consider when we're applying our product, is how much shrinking is going to happen with this product, because the thickness of the layer we apply, how well we cap the free edge, how close we get to the skin, all of that stuff is that we need to know those factors about the product that we're working with so that we can anticipate this movement of the product and make sure that everything is well covered before we go in with our additional layers. So we'll talk about this more when we get into the actual application lesson next time, but I do want you guys to really start to do some of this testing with your products, play around with your products, see how they behave, because this information is going to help you so much with understanding what's going to work well for certain nails and what isn't. All right, thanks for watching. I really hope that this series is starting to help you understand a little bit more about what goes into longevity behind gel nail services. It is about the quality of the product, but it's also really important to understand that it comes down to how the product is being used and the understanding of the person who's applying it. So all of this education is really geared towards helping you guys be more successful, as well as be able to squeeze more value out of the products that you invest in so that you can feel like you are getting professional results in any scenario. Thanks so much for watching, and we will continue this series with part 3 next week. Bye.